This is a walkthrough for the Kinejo Theaters project for CS200, semester spring 2022. So first off, let's look at the first version of the project. So with the project, we have documentation from a mock client, and what you'll be doing is creating the program based on the acceptance criteria and also providing some documentation. So this is just about the pseudo client, the fake client. And version 1, this was early in the class, so we were just focusing on variables, branching, and looping. Version 2 had arrays and functions, and then version 3 had classes. So we're just going to approach this the way that I had hoped everyone would approach this, with the refactoring between versions. So I'm going to start with version 1. So there's some tips for getting started and development practices. The important part is user stories and acceptance criteria. And for this first version, I assume everything is going to be in one file. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to create an empty file and just name it Theater Program version 1. There's also going to need to be a design document, which I guess I could also write that up. I am going to keep the design document in the same space here, so it's easy to find. Oop, okay. And I misspelled that a little bit. So, ideally, with the design document, the first part is to do the planning and thinking of what you're going to tackle in what order. So let's just put out in a iterations section. We'll just say this is Kinejo Theaters version 1 design document. And we can add formatting to make things look nicer. So iterations, this is going to be like the features in the order. Program layout, that will be kind of the flow between different screens of the program. Program data, test cases. So we'll go ahead and do this and this. We'll need any citations, which for me, I'm not really going to need to reference any other places, but if you found something like how to clear the screen found on Stack Overflow, not loaf, Overflow. I don't know why I'm thinking of bread. Anyway, so you would also put like the URL in there as well. Postmortem, that's going to be for after the project. Screenshots to show kind of like what you would see on the back of the box. I know we don't really buy software in boxes that much anymore, but maybe you think of DVD covers or something else, but having screenshots of the program working at key places, something that the client would get something out of. Okay. So with the design document first, we need to read through the user stories and acceptance criteria. So as a customer, I want to be able to view the current movies available so I can decide whether I want to order tickets. As a customer, I want to be able to select multiple tickets so that I may purchase admittance to the movie. As an admin, I want the program to store different prices for tickets based on which movie is showing, so that the ticket price totals will be calculated correctly. As an admin, I want the kiosk to keep track of available seats for a given theater, so that a customer will be notified if there are not enough remaining seats. And as an admin, I want the kiosk to automatically remove available seats after a customer purchases tickets, so that the seating count remains accurate and up to date. So with the iterations, you could kind of just write stuff down. You might not know exactly what order you're going to tackle things right away. So we'll at least start with a table here. No, not that table. I usually create a table from here. Okay. So iteration, feature, areas affected, notes, and this doesn't have to be really in detail or really perfect or anything. I was mostly just seeing that you spent some time hopefully designing ahead of time and not after the fact, though I'm sure probably a lot of students uh, probably wrote this afterwards. Okay, so based on what we need to have, we need to be able to view a list of movies. So probably the first thing we need is to create movie list or the variables for the movie lists. And possibly also the seating, movie, let's just say movie related variables. That'll be the first thing, that'll be relatively small. This will be the movies being shown, total seats available, ticket prices. So that'll be the first thing we need to do. Then we need to have some sort of menu, and there are mock-ups down here. So here's a login menu where we can view available movies or order tickets. So let's just say create menu bases. And then in here you could say like this is just like that's going to affect the whole program. This is meant to be more like which feature is this modifying or which menu is this modifying. Which we're just starting off, so we don't have a lot of stuff, but we need login menu, view available movies, order tickets. Okay, that one, I mean, I guess relatively would be medium. Let's make that smaller. From there, we need to be able to view the list of movies, so view all movies. It's going to be just the view movies screen. And so this will be, I guess, relatively medium to implement. And then purchase tickets is going to be the thing with the most logic in it. So this is also going to need displaying the list of movies, getting the amount of tickets, calculating the price. So this will be the largest part of this project. Now the program layout, these are the sample menus. So ideally the program layout would be just a sketch of how these are related. Actually, let's put this on a new page. So I'm not a fan of drawing tools from inside the text editor, but we'll just work with this anyway. We'll start with the main menu. And so that will display our 0 to quit, 1 view available movies, 2 order tickets. So we're not doing like a traditional programming flowchart. I just mostly wanted you to think through the flow of the menus, how you get from one area to another. We also have a menu for view available movies. So let's make this a little bigger. Technically, these are all different variables. And we'll have our order ticket screen. And there's a lot here, so I'm not going to write it all out. So the program flow is, let's use an arrow to kind of show this. We start at the main menu. If the user selects 1, we want to view the available movies. If they select 2, they want to go to the order movies or order ticket screen. And then if they quit, then we literally just quit. Now, once they're done viewing the available movies, they need to also return back to the main menu. And the order screen, they need to return back to the main menu once they're done with an order. So that's the basic program layout. Program data, that is here. That can pretty much just be copied over at this point. So movies, auditorium, capacity, ticket prices. So We are only going to start with 3 movies. And having these exactly as in the documentation in this case, not that important. You could put whatever movies you want. So 10, 15, and 12. So let's say this is Theater A, Theater B, and Theater C. So this is also Theater A, B, and C. Or Auditorium, basically. I'll set these. So ticket prices, $7.50, $5.50, $4.50. Okay. Test cases, we can work on this afterwards or beforehand, but I assume early on is going to be a lot easier to do it after we've implemented it. But basically, our test cases would be something like start program, press this, list of movies displays with proper seats or the default seat amount. Or then test order tickets, test to make sure the seats gets updated, and so on. But we'll work on that after. The postmortem is also for afterwards. So that will be what went well, what did not go well, what will I change next time, and then screenshots are for the actual program. Okay, so now we have this. Let's start by thinking of our iterations. First off, we need to create our main, and we're going to create our variables. So we need strings for the movie titles. So string movie, let's say A, movie B, movie C. We'll need total seat amounts, so seats A, seats B, seats C, and prices. Price A, price B, price C. And we're going to be refactoring these in subsequent versions. In version 2, we'll start using arrays, and in version 3, we'll use classes and structs. Since I'm using string here, I need to make sure to include the string library in using namespace std. If I'm going to start doing couts, I'm also going to need iostream. And if I want to do nice tabbing over, we'll do iominute, but let's save that for version 2. So with this one, we're going to create a program loop. We have a main menu, and then we want to be able to go to these submenus. I'm going to start with done is false, while not done. Or we could just say this is program done, because we're actually going to have several submenus. And since we're not working with functions at this point for this version of the program, I assume everything is going to be inside of main, and then we will clean it up afterwards. So I'm going to implement this not using any of the future topics. So while program is done, display main menu, get users selection, go to sub menu. So main menu, cout, quit, view available movies, order tickets, and generally we should have a nice header so it's easier to see where we are at in the program. Because if we just run this, and I don't have any stuff at the moment to keep it from looping forever, but this is just going to get squished together and it won't look nice. But let's go ahead and say int choice, cin choice. So again, if I do this, it's really hard to read that what menu we are on. It's important to have a good user interface. So I'm going to have like a little header as well. So let's say main menu. I'm going to output a bunch of lines here, just so it looks more like that. And then anytime I get the user's input, I like to have a little prompt. Enter your selection. So we could do that. So from the submenu, we're going to have different abilities. We can do this with switch statements or if statements. I think that using if statements will be simpler. So we'll just say if choice is 0, this is the quit option. Else if choice is 1, this is view available movies. else if choice is 2, this is order tickets. And we might as well have an else case, so that would be invalid input. Invalid selection, try again. And at this point, we don't really need to prompt them to enter something again. It will just reset the loop if we enter something invalid. So again, this is still kind of squished together, so I'm going to add some end lines down here. So if I say something invalid, it'll do that, and then I can see I'm back at the main menu. If they select quit, we're going to say program done is true. So once it gets done with the first iteration of the program, it'll come back up here. This is done, and we're done with the program. So I'll just go ahead and say goodbye. Okay, this is going to be the view available movies screen. So that's probably the next easiest thing to do. We can add loops inside of here to make sure that the user does not go back to the main menu right away. So let's say tool, let's say view available movies done is false. And down here, we'll say order tickets done is false. While view available movies is not done, need this little not sign there, while not order tickets done, and then we can write these submenus. So in the submenu for viewing movies, we just need to kind of view a simple list of what is available in the seats. I did not initialize any of this data, but I'll show you what happens if we don't initialize our data. So we'll make this say view available movies. That's the header. I'm going to copy the same line ruler, horizontal rule to split it up. Down here is purchase tickets. And so we have a list of movies. Let's output movies A first. So movie, let's just say Auditorium A. I know we weren't using the term auditorium until version 3, but this will kind of help us combine our thoughts on each version. So movie A, we're watching whatever that title is. And we have however many seats available. And since we're not using arrays, we kind of have to just duplicate this code. So build. We could also display the prices. The interface is somewhat up to you. It'll be friendlier for the user if they can... Oh, I have a loop that just goes forever. If they can see the prices at the same time, that's more user-friendly. After we display that, let's just say press enter to go to the main menu, or in the mockup it says back to main menu. We could do it either way. We could say go back to main menu, because we don't want to go immediately back to the main menu. So this one is a Y or N. This is going to be a character choice. We'll do CN go back. If go back is equal to Y to go back, we'll say view available movies. It's done. Now also, since this is a character, I'm going to say to upper and just check for uppercase or lowercase y will get converted to an uppercase by using this function. So we could type either way. So here's view available movies. That's kind of ugly. I'm going to add spacing before I continue. So let's just add that. View available movies. Now these seats, these are essentially random. They're not true random, they're just garbage values. But that is what happens whenever we do not initialize our integers or floats, that sort of thing. Now here I can type in and it'll keep me on that menu. Or I could type Y and accidentally put a U in there, so it just quit the program. So we'll go back here. Yes, now it's back at main menu. Okay, so let's initialize these. Movie A is My Neighbor Totoro. Movie B is Coming to America. Movie C is Beetlejuice. And then these are corresponding. So int seats A, I'm going to get rid of the other ones down there. I just like to keep these all grouped nearby. So the initial data, we have 10 in that auditorium. Int seats B, initial data, 15. Int seats C is 12. And then when separate prices. Float price A is $7.50. Float price B is $5.50. Float price C is $4.50. Okay, so now when we display that, it should give us things that are not garbage. So good, that's view available movies is done. On our design document, that is iteration number 3. Now we just got to take care of purchase tickets. So when we purchase tickets, we'll show them the movies again, and after they select a movie to see, we'll tell them how much it costs. I might tweak this a little bit so that they actually see what the price is as they're ordering the tickets, just because that would be a more user-friendly way to do it. Now, I'm going to copy this part because we're going to display the same information when we're purchasing tickets. And let's also add the dollar amount. So price A, B, and C. And we probably also need some space between that. And we'll say in line, which movie do you want to see? Now over here we have 1, 2, and 3 as options. Here we have A, B, and C. We could use a character. If this was 1, 2, and 3, we could use an int. We can do it either way. We're going to have to refactor this later on anyway. So I'm going to do char movie choice. CN movie choice. So then they're going to be working with 1, 2, or 3, or A, B, or C, one of those movies. So once we do that, we're going to say, okay, this is the price, how many tickets, and then we'll have them that finish up. Now, the way I pretty much expect everyone to be implementing this would just be, say, if movie choice is A or 1, else if movie choice is B or 2, else if movie choice is C or 3. Again, I'm going to say movie choice is equal to the uppercase version of movie choice. Then most people probably would have implemented the same kind of code here. So let's say int ticket amount, how many tickets, and then so float total price equals, since we did A, it's going to be price A times ticket amount, and then displaying total price. And we haven't done the seat check yet. I'm just illustrating something. So this is probably what most people did. And actually from grading it, I know this is what most people did. But we could get rid of this duplicate code as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down here. And I'm going to get rid of all this duplicate code, and I'm going to approach this a little bit differently. So I'm going to say string selected movie, int selected movie seats. Let's just make this title. Float selected movie price. So if they selected A, selected movie title is movie A. Selected movie seats is seats A, and selected movie price is price A. Now all I have is setting these variables, and then I can have this set of code all be the same, except instead of price C, I'm going to say selected movie price, total price, and we have to update the seats. So that is going to be something we have to change in here with like an if statement, because we won't be able to reassign that value, but we could at least get the price and implement this part. So tickets for one are $7.50 each. Let's go ahead and also add that in here. Tickets for, and I'm just going to say selected movie title, are selected movie price each. There are selected movie seats, available seats. So we'll see how this looks, and then we might add some more formatting. How many tickets? 3 or whatever. And actually we need to do a check ahead of time. So before we calculate the total price, we need to actually look at, do we have enough seats? So if the ticket amount is less than or equal to the selected movie seats, that means there are enough seats. Otherwise, there are not enough seats available for this order. And we can handle this different ways. So if it's fine, then it's fine. We don't really need to have this if statement here. I would generally implement it more like this. If the ticket amount is greater than selected movie seats, not enough seats available. So in this case, I would say, let's do inline. Sorry, not enough seats available. And really, I would say we could technically just say continue, and it will start the loop over again. So if we say continue, we will see what that does. So order tickets. Let's do A. Tickets for that are $7.50. Let's do 50. Not enough seats. And then it takes us back to the purchase tickets screen. And the reason it does this is because we say continue. So that says stop where we're at. Go to the next iteration of the loop, the next immediate loop. So it comes up here. We're still not done purchasing tickets. It restarts the loop. But then it will allow them to make another selection, like choose a different movie or choose the same movie and enter a new amount of seats. If this does not happen, then when we continue down here, that means there are definitely enough seats. If we did not do the continue command, then we're good. So, total price, and we'll also need to adjust the seat amount. So we're going to need this again. But we don't need all of this information, so we'll get rid of this part. Total price, let's just say the selected movie seats. We're going to subtract the ticket amount from that. And then in here, we'll set seats A to the selected movie seats, or seats B, or seats C. So then that should adjust the amount of seats. Let's go ahead and run, order tickets. Let's do A, 10 tickets, total price. Okay, this needs to be cleaned up a little bit because it is ugly. But now we have 0 seats remaining here. So since the thing keeps kind of being all smushed together, I'm going to add additional end lines here. Now, if I do this, that does the same thing. So I'm going to do that here instead of doing this here. That way we have a nice kind of spacing when we go here, select that, choose not enough seats. Now we have that spacing. I should also add an error check to see if we're choosing seats D, because it continues, but none of these were triggered. So if we have something else, we need to make sure to let the user know that's not valid. Invalid movie selection, please try again. And we'll use the continue command again to fix that up. So order, let's say, any numbers or other letters, it's not going to work. Invalid movie selection, try again, and it comes back here. And we could also add like a cancel option. So let's just add that. Or Q to cancel or quit or whatever. We can check down here. Else, if movie choice is Q, then we're canceling the movie transaction. So we'll say order tickets done is true, and we're going to continue. So run. I can hit Q to go back. And there we go. So we basically have the entire program written now for version 1. In here, I need to have some screenshots. So I'll open my image editor. Here's the main menu. Just kind of take a little screenshot here. There is a print screen button on the keyboard we can use. Let's say view available movies. So we don't need like an exhaustive list of screenshots, but having a few is good. Maybe each main menu. So let's say doing A5, and we can show this going from purchase tickets back to the purchase tickets menu again, where the seats are updated. And that will be that. Okay, post-mortem. What went well? Oops, I wrote this ahead of time, when I wrote the actual assignment, so I implemented it with minimal duplicate code. What did not go well? Arrays and classes would be better here. Of course, we weren't at that point in the class at that point, so, this is kind of whatever you'll do. Let's look at test cases, and that'll be the last part of the documentation. So to test this out, let's just say, do a little number menu, test 1. Check that the movie data is displayed in view available movies. So to do that, actually, maybe I won't make this part of the numbered list. We'll just do test 1. Step 1, start program, go to menu 1, or select menu 1, such and such. List of movies should include My Neighbor Totoro, 10 seats, Coming to America, 15 seats, Beetlejuice, 12 seats. So that's the first test. If we run it and that's what happens, then that test passes. Let's do 2. Purchase tickets adjusts seat count. Repurchase tickets calculates correct ticket price, and so on and so forth. So we want to make sure that the core functionality works properly. So purchase seats, let's say 1, start program, select menu, order tickets, select movie My Neighbor Totoro with 10 seats, order 5 seats, my neighbor Totoro should now have 5 seats. Or maybe if we wanted this to be calculated a little nicer, we could do that. So that would be testing the seat count. Down here, we can do the same steps. Let's just say order 2 seats. Order total should be 750 times 2, which would be $15. And of course, you can always calculate it manually. And so this is just a basic list of the tests. So then this is what would get turned in. The documentation is needed and the program itself. So that's the first part. And I accidentally closed the documentation folder. Let me open that back up. If it will let me. Okay. So then now we're going to look at version 2 and how we make these updates. So out here, ideally, you would have made a copy of this folder, which makes it honestly easier to grade. I'm going to name this version 2. I'm going to name this version 2, and then this will get updated. Now, in code blocks, this will still say version 1. You wouldn't have to do this, but I'm going to change this here. It doesn't know where Theater V1 is, so we remove that and add in our new version 2 of the file. Save that, and then that is ready to go. Let's reopen this design doc. This is for version 2 now. And let's look at the documentation, the requirements. Okay. So we're adding on. We're going to be using arrays and basic functions. Still need a design document. We are going to use arrays for the movies, seats, and auditorium. So even just now, I can change this to convert movie-related variables to arrays. So that's going to actually end up meaning we have to update the program at multiple places. We don't need to make the menus anymore. We could separate things into functions, but I would suggest doing the arrays first. Let's say separate main menu into function, separate view movies into function, separate the purchase tickets into function, and let's also maybe add something like create get choice function to validate input. No global variables, clean user interface, and then information about passing arguments. So basic program structure that should go between them. This is an example of display main menu, initialize data. So let's also add that. So create init data function. Let's leave this off for now. We also, well, we have view movies, purchase tickets, get user input, and we are also going to need price plus tax. Create price plus tax function. So we can do that sort of thing. This is just going to be start of program. This will be affecting the purchase tickets part. Whole program. Main menu, view movies, purchase tickets. And this can be filled out accordingly as well. So program readability is important. We're going to add some kind of indentation as we go. We'll use the IO manip library for that. And that's the version 1. This one, we were just kind of cleaning things up and not adding any new functionality. So this doesn't have to be very complex. We still have same program layout, kind of same data. Test cases still apply. So let's go ahead and look at the program. So first off, we're going to convert these into arrays. if we're going to use the array object, we need to include array. And if we're going to use the IO manip library, we need to include that so that we can make nice indentation. We're going to change this to a array of strings, size 3 for now. We'll just call this movies. Array of ints, size 3, seats. Array of floats, size 3, prices. So these correspond to movie names, seats, and prices. I'll comment this out for now, but make sure that you erase commented out code in the thing you turn in as a final thing. And since we're using functions and we need to have function declarations and definitions, I'm going to create a header file. So this will be functions.h. We'll do functions.cpp. The header file is where we will declare our functions, but we also need the file guard. So if not defined, functions h, define functions h, and if functions.cpp needs to include functions.h, and our theater program is also going to need functions.h. So we're going to create a init data function that updates our data here. So we need to be able to access array of movies, array of seats, array of prices. We can copy that. We can paste it here for reference. And we're going to need init data. This function isn't going to return anything because we can't return three arrays in C++, but we can pass those by reference to be able to set them. So let's say init data. We'll have array of strings size 3 for movies, an array of ints size 3 for seats, array of floats size 3 for prices. And again, since we're using arrays and strings, we need to make sure to include the related items. And since we're probably going to also use IOStream and IOmanip, we'll leave those there. So initializing the data, we still have this information we want to store. And actually, I need this to be the declaration, not the definition. So there's that. This is the definition where it has the function body. And we'll put that for reference. So movies at position 0, that's going to be A, basically. Instead of movie A, we're going to be movies 0. Movies 1. Movies 2. Up here, we'll say seats 0 is 10. Prices 0 is 750. Seats 1, and so on. So, before we continue on, we should really test this out. And actually, this is not going to build because I just erased all those variables. And I should have finished kind of refactoring this before coming in here and doing this. But we'll at least be able to see the in the initialized data. So we'll pass in movies, seats, and prices. And then we'll go back and update these other areas. So now we don't have movie A, B, and C. We've gotten rid of those. Instead, movie A is going to be movies 0. This is going to be movies 1 and movies 2. We're just focused on getting things building and running again. We can clean this up in a little bit. Next area, same thing here. Oh, that did something weird. Should be movies. This will be 0, 1, 2. build, check that out. Again, this is going to be cleaned up because now we're using arrays. We can make this a lot better. But for the time being, we're going to just replace any instances 1 to 1. So this will be now seats 1, 1, 1. This will be seats 2, 2, 2. Build, look for the next one. Okay, this will be seats 0, seats 1, seats 2. Okay, so it builds. We've refactored that much. View available movies still works okay. Order tickets, say A5, and then that also still updates. So this is what I mean by doing a little bit at a time, replacing just the variables with an array, making sure that still works. Then we can go back and clean things up a little bit, which actually we might want to do before separating things into functions. So how can we reduce duplicate code? Well, we can use for loops, basically. So in this case, we'll do for int I is 0, I is less than movies.size, I++. And actually, this is going to complain at me and give me a warning of comparison of integer expression of different signedness. We can either fix this by saying unsigned int I or size ti. I'll get rid of that warning. Let's take one of these, and we'll actually just change this to the index instead of a letter. Movie at I, seats at I. Now when we view available movies, it'll say 0, 1, and 2. If we wanted that to be like 1, 2, and 3, we could add a 1 here. We just need to make sure that we recognize that the user is seeing an index that's offset by 1. So I'm going to copy this. We'll come down here. We need the price. So let's add that in here. Movies I and the price at position I. Don't need this part now. And I'm going to change this so that we enter an index instead. So we'll do -1 to quit. And I'm going to change this to int movie choice. Don't need the 2 upper anymore. And we don't need this part anymore, except we might want to say if movie choice is -1, that's going to be our quit. So we're going to do this. Bloop. And we're going to get rid of this stuff. And I'm going to get rid of this stuff. Because now we have movie choice and we can access it directly. Don't need this part. So for the movie at the choice selected, there are, the tickets are prices at the choice selected, and we have that amount of seats. They enter in how many tickets they want. We replace this part with the amount of seats. Total price is the selected movie price times ticket amount, but we'll also need to factor in taxes, but we'll do that later. Okay, does that build? -1 should quit. Order tickets, 1, 5, 50, didn't like it. Okay, looks like it did not subtract from my total seats, so let's double check. Seats at movie choice minus equals ticket amount. That should adjust it. Oh, I know. I was looking, typed in 1, because this is the menu option, but technically 1 is this guy. So now that one's 0. So if we are going to do movie choice, and if we're going to display 1, 2, 3 instead of 0, 1, 2, we'll get their input, but we also have to say movie choice -1, because instead of technically movie number 1 is actually movie number 0, and number 2 is 1, and 3 is 2. So we have 0, 1, 2. Let's update that one, and now that works. Okay, so we have refactored that amount. We could add that price plus tax function, so we can go ahead and add tax in there. Price plus tax, we should return a new price. We should get the original price and the tax rate. And we're going to calculate what the result is. So I'm going to say return price plus whatever the price times the tax rate is. In here, I'm going to declare a variable for tax. Let's just make that a const. And we'll set it to 0.091. Down here, we have, this is the, not the final price, but we'll have ticket price. Is that used elsewhere? So we'll say ticket price. Total price with tax. We'll do price plus tax, ticket price, and the tax amount. So order tickets, 1. Let's order 1 ticket. It was $7.50, but with tax, it's $8.18 or so, and we're gonna adjust this as well. So let's go ahead and format the currency correctly. Up here, we have IOmanip. We're gonna say cout. We're going to do fixed set precision 2, and then that should take care of that part. So now we have 750 instead of 7.5. And we have, I forgot to put the $sign, but we have that formatted correctly. So let's go ahead and input the $sign, ticket price, price with tax. It didn't like that. So there we have $8.18. So that's iteration 1 and 2. Let's do the get choice function. So we want to validate the user's input for integer values. So we'll say enter number between min to max, int choice, cn choice, and while the choice is less than the minimum, or the choice is greater than the maximum, we'll say invalid selection, try again. We'll do this and this. And by the time we're done with the while loop, that means they've finally entered a valid choice. So we will return that data. Now, anytime we have an integer selection, like this, integer selection for a menu, we can change this a little bit. We'll have int choice, and we'll say int choice is equal to get choice. Our options are 0 to 2. There we go. We can leave the menu as is right now. We have which movie do you want to see? They can do 1, 2, 3. Let's just say if it's 0, then it's going to exit. So movie choice. We'll move this up here. 0 to quit. We'll get their selection. They think they're entering 0 for quit, 1, 2, or 3 for a movie, so we'll do that, but then we'll also subtract 1 from it so that it does the offset correctly. Ticket amounts, we could also use get choice down here. So let's say ticket amount is equal to get choice. They can either choose 1 as the minimum or however many seats are available as the maximum. And technically, this won't even happen if we do it this way. But we can leave that there, I guess, for now. let's go ahead and verify this works. So let's say 50 invalid selection. We quit, blah. Okay. I don't really like how those are all really close to each other, so I'm going to add an inline. Let's say order tickets. Let's order ticket number 4, invalid. Let's try quit. It goes back. 1, My Neighbor Totoro. 5 tickets. Okay, let's do 2. There's 15, so between 1 and 15. And so on. So now that works. So we're saving. Now let's separate everything into functions. So we have a main menu area. We have view available movies area and a order tickets area. These areas also need access to our arrays so that it can work with the data. So we're going to declare a series of menus. So I'm going to say void menu main, and I'm just going to copy my list of data. We're also going to have a menu for view movies, and let's have a function for purchase tickets. And let's make one more helper function that just displays the movie list. So display movies. So that will be so we can you just call this one function because we display movies in both the view available movies screen and order tickets screen. View movies, these do not need pass by reference because it won't change it, but purchase tickets will change the seat amount. So we'll need that. Okay, so for display movies, we'll just take what we already have. Where we'll get rid of this part, but here we have the auditorium, the number, and the movie. I'm going to take that and throw it in here. And that should be okay on its own. Over here, we'll just display movies. We'll pass in the movies. We'll pass in the seats. We'll pass in the prices. So that should be good. Up here, we can replace this as well. Let's go ahead and build run to test. View available movies. Order tickets. Those look okay. Well, maybe I'll move these to be up and down so we have more horizontal space. So we have our different menus now. I'm going to not start with the main menu. I'm going to start with purchase tickets. So this entire loop up here, right here, is for purchase tickets. And I'm going to take this, all of its internal contents, and cut it. And down in here, I'm going to paste all my code and also realign this. So it should still have access to movies, seats, and prices. And in the original location, I'm going to call menu purchase tickets, movies, seats, and prices. Does it build? It does not have access to tax. So let's go ahead and add tax in here as well. So it's a const float tax. And we'll put that up here as well. And then that means we have to pass the tax in there. So that builds. We're going to do the same thing with view available movies. Just take the contents of this else if statement. I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to call menu view movies, pass in movies, seats, and prices. That builds. We can go ahead and check it out, make sure everything still runs. And then finally, let's move the entire internal main menu function. So I'm going to take this code and I'm going to paste it over here. And that's aligned okay. Now we're going to need tax as well because that's going to go into the purchase tickets. Otherwise it's going to complain. We'll say menu main, movies, seats, prices. and tax. We need to add tax to the function. So I'll add it right here. And right here, we'll go ahead and build. That builds okay. View available movies. And then you would basically go through your test cases to make sure everything works properly. And so that still updates. And you could still use the same screenshots in the documentation. The postmortem would be updated based on the refactoring done here. But now we have arrays that we're using, and we have even less duplicate code. And it's been cleaned up a little bit. So that's version 2 of the program. Let's go ahead and close that. And once again, we're going to make version 3. Now, version 3 did have some updates to functionality. Change that to V3. And this will be V3. Let's go ahead and erase these. Okay. I'm going to change that to say version 3. And I'm going to replace this one. Add files with the version 3 of my theater program. Okay, so version 3. This time we're going to be using classes and structs and file input and output. So as an admin, I want to be able to set the maximum amount of seats the auditorium has. That's going to be a new feature. Have the seats reset to maximum after I make an update. Be able to update the name of a movie playing in an auditorium. And so these will be part of a new submenu. We need an admin menu. Over here, we're going to change the ticket price based on the amount of seats that have been sold. We're going to change the table to look very nice and tabbed over if we haven't done that already. We want the program data to be stored between runs, so we don't want to have like the resetted movie amounts in there every time, or if we changed a movie name, we want that to show up every time. And I want to have 10 auditoriums in my program instead of just 3. So that means we're going to expand our array. And so here's more data and some equations. We'll get back to this later. But now we'll have an admin menu and a customer kiosk. So we're basically taking what we have from our current version. That's going to now be the customer kiosk. And we'll need another menu for the admin screen. And we'll allow the user to edit, the admin to edit which movie is playing. Steps and iterations, we'll brainstorm on that here in a minute. Here's an auditorium struct and a program class that would be good to use, and I also give the save and load data functionality. So, since we're going to have an auditorium struct, and the auditorium contains the max amount of seats available, current available seats, and the movies currently playing in it, or the movie currently playing in it, we're going to store all of this in an auditorium struct. So we're going to create a auditorium.h file, add file guards, declare our struct. We're going to need a string movie playing, so we're going to need to include string. We need int max seats and int available seats. So that's all that data there. And really, I haven't written out the iterations yet, so I'm kind of jumping the gun here. But that's going to be this struct. And likewise, this program, this can be written as a class. Okay, so we're going to need a class for the auditorium, and we can approach this in a similar way where we had variables and we change them to arrays. So now we can convert movie data arrays into one array of auditoriums. So that will be just some refactoring. We're going to need a program class, create program class, move existing functions into program class. So those are the refactoring bits. Let's go ahead and let's see, what would be a good next step? We could have the data saved and loaded. So save and load data functions. We also need to create admin menu, and we need to create login menu. And the admin menu needs to have the ability to edit auditoriums, and also just view them. And clean up the user interface as needed. So I created our auditorium.h back inside where we have our main. We're going to include auditorium, and we're just focusing on refactoring first. Instead of 3 different parallel arrays, we're going to create one array of auditoriums, and this time it's going to be size 10. Because in the acceptance criteria, it says to add more items. Now we can kind of just keep building and looking for the build errors. It doesn't know what movies, seats, and prices are anymore. We'll replace that with auditoriums and replace that here. We're going to have to update that in other places. So in our functions.h, this is going to be now an array of auditoriums. For the init data, this can just be a pass by reference, or menu main. That will be a pass by reference. View movies does not need the actual value or the actual item, so we can pass it as a const reference. Over here, pass that by reference. And over here, we'll pass this by a const reference. And we'll have to make these updates in functions.cpp as well. So init data, we're going to have just the array of auditoriums passed by reference. We'll come back to this later. We're just going to adjust these. Display movies, const reference to auditoriums, main menu, reference. In here, view movies, that's const reference because we're not changing any data. Purchase tickets are just the seats. Oops. So that needs to just be a reference. And now we can continue building and looking at where it's going to complain. So right now it's saying it doesn't know what auditorium is. We need to make sure to include auditoriums.h or auditorium.h. It doesn't know movies, but it does know auditoriums. So auditoriums 0 dot. And that should autofill, but I guess it's not going to. But we'll say movie playing is My Neighbor Totoro. Auditoriums 0 dot max seats is 10, and available seats will have some other stuff, but we're not storing prices anymore. So let's look at the initial data in the document. Or we have this view movies example, but we have this up here. So this will now be Kiki's delivery service, starting off with 30 max seats and 30 available seats. You can copy and paste that, and I'll just put a placeholder and we'll kind of just set all these up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Make sure to update these index values. Now for the initial data, we do need to set these manually until we have saving and loading from a file. So this is just what we'll have to do, and this can also be the default data if we could not find a file, a save file anyway. This one is My Neighbor Totoro, 3030. This one is Arrival with 2525. This one is Casablanca. the lost skeleton of Cadavra, and so on. Okay, so there's all our data. Where's it going to complain next? Well, display movies. We have auditoriums. This will be auditoriums I dot movie playing. And let's just put these on separate lines so it's easier to read. Auditoriums I. Well, we don't have prices, so we're going to get rid of this part. It will calculate the price, but we'll add that functionality later. Let's just say we have our available seats. And I'm going to add a kind of fraction looking thing. So let's say out of auditoriums I dot max seats. Is that right? Okay. So that should be okay now. Over here, we're calling view movies, but we need to just pass in the auditoriums. We're calling purchase tickets, but we need to pass in the auditoriums. Display movies. Display movies. Okay, and then update here. So tickets for blah dot. I have such a hard time remembering words. We'll figure out the prices later, so I'm just going to default this to 0 at the moment because we don't have a variable to store the price. There are blah blah seats available, so dot available seats. Let's say to do fix this. How many tickets? Blah dot available seats. Doop doop. We'll get the prices. We'll fix this up later. We'll just default this to 0 at the moment. Ticket price, price with tax, and then the seats, available seats goes down. So build. Does it still run? Well, now we have a lot of auditoriums. I'm going to make this a little bit nicer looking because it should be a table. So there is an example table in here. We have a number, movie, seats open, seats total, and price. So let's go ahead and change this up. We'll do a cout left to make everything left aligned. And we'll do the header of the table. So we'll do set width, let's say 3-4 spaces for the index. So we'll do number. The movie title is probably going to be the longest of the fields. So we'll just say movie. The way I have this formatted is it's on 2 separate lines. So I'm going to actually do this line on its own. Seats open, seats total. Probably just do 10. And then the price. So I'm going to actually have another thing up here. We don't need this part, don't need this part. This will be seats open and seats price, blah, blah, blah. So we'll keep it like that. And we'll do a line. So that will be kind of the top of our table. Now the data needs to be in the same format. So I'm going to copy this, put it in here. The number is instead going to be I. The movie title is going to be this. The available seats is going to be that. Max seats is going to be this. And then we will come back and update the price later. So view available movies. That looks a lot nicer, easier to read all the data. Okay. So we created arrays. We have not done the program class yet, so let's just refactor it by adding a program class. Currently, everything is just in functions here, but we're going to create a program.h. If not defined program, define program. Okay, so in the design document here, there is an example of a program class. We're going to need array. We're going to need auditorium. And I do not think we could need a string if we're going to display headers like this. This is kind of whatever we want to display it or format it as. Okay. Class program, public and private. We'll make the array of auditoriums a private member. So I'm actually going to come in here, gonna take this guy and cut it, paste it in here, and I like to prefix these with m underscore whenever they are member variables. Also need the tax. I don't know if it'll let me build with a const, but this right here, this can all be, well, we could keep the cout fixed set precision to at least kind of set that up right. But we're going to be moving all of the functions over. So we'll take these function declarations, throw them in here. So we'll kind of go back and adjust these as needed. We won't need this functions file anymore, so we're going to erase it. And we're going to take our current function declaration or definitions and put it in the program. So we'll have a program.cpp, include program.h, have this in here, and now these need to be prefixed with program and the scope resolution operator. We'll put these like that. So let's see if that builds. Cout was not declared, so we need to include IOStream, probably include IOManip, probably include string, and probably include array. Okay, everything builds. Does it run? Well, I don't have it being called inside of here yet. So we're gonna go ahead and create a program. This just needs to have program.h. And we're going to say program.run, which I did not create a run function, but that's usually what I name the thing that starts the program. So we'll add that in there. We do not need technically the rest of this except for IOStream or IOManip, but leave that. I don't need this functions file anymore. I'm going to remove that. And to keep things clean, I'm also going to delete it from the directory as well, so there's no confusion. Save the project. Okay. I'm going to create a run function as kind of the starting point for the program itself. We'll put that right up here. So when the program begins, we want to initialize the data, and eventually we'll want to load data from a file. But we'll just go ahead and say init data. Technically, because the program contains the member variable m auditoriums, we no longer, and also the tax, we no longer need to have parameters in these because it already has access to it because these are all members of the program class. So we'll get rid of those, get rid of that. These will all now be m underscore auditoriums. We could also kind of just do a selection, do a replace, search for auditoriums, replace it with m underscore auditoriums. Do that. Don't need this here. So be that. Don't need these. Don't need these. Don't need those. And technically, we could just run it or hit the build button to look for the places where we need to update. So, include functions. That doesn't exist anymore, but we are including program.h. Oh, for display movies. Well, I got rid of the argument there too, so. That was my alarm to feed the dog that I am currently dog sitting some lunch. So just a moment. Okay, so currently this does not display anything, but let's look at this. We got theater program and it goes to run. Run just initializes the data, but it does not take us anywhere else. We have our main menu, but remember that technically this is going to be the customer kiosk now, so we could rename it. And we're going to need a new main menu or a login menu. So I'm just going to name this customer kiosk. We'll change this to customer kiosk. And then this could be changed up as well. We'll just say menu done. It'd be a little bit nice to be more consistent. We'll still need a main menu, or let's just say login menu. So we'll do this. Void program, menu login. We have the customer kiosk, and these are customer functions. So just to make it super clear, I'm just going to do this so that it looks nicer. Okay. We're also going to need an admin main menu, which I have that after the save load, but I'm going to go ahead and create the functions and just not fill them in. So we're going to need void menu admin, void menu admin view movies, void menu admin edit auditoriums, or let's look at how we have the mock-up. Oops. So it'll show auditoriums, edit which one, and then get that information. Okay. So we'll just create the function stubs, but not fill them in yet. And these need to be prefixed with program. And we're going to need a save and load function. So that is pretty much down here. Save and load. I'll just create that. It could technically go under private because really the external places don't need it, but whatever. We'll just do save data, void load data. And I'm actually going to put these next to my init data. Okay. So up here, we have init data. Program. We're going to save the data at the end of the program, and we're going to load the data at the beginning of the program because we want to load whatever is saved. I have some example code in here. We're going to need the fstream library to use ifstream and ofstream. We'll do input file stream input auditoriums.txt. I'm going to add if input.fail. If we are unable to load the data, I'm going to call init data from here. So I'm not going to call it here. I'm just going to call load data. And if we can't find a save file, we're going to just use the initial data up here. And if not, if we can find the data, then we're going to load in our 10 auditoriums worth of data. So for size t I0, I is less than m auditoriums.size. And the way that these two functions are written it'll always read in the max seats, available seats, and then the movie playing. So input auditoriums I dot max seats, input the available seats. We'll do input.ignore so that it doesn't ignore characters in the get line, which takes a whole line of data. Input auditoriums I.movie playing. And if we want, we could display something like auditoriums. Well, we don't need to do that. We could just say it loaded this amount of data, but technically the array is a fixed size, so should have 10 things. Save data, we'll do ofstream output auditoriums.txt. Make sure the spelling matches. We'll do the same kind of for loop, but we need to output it in the same order. So max seats, then available seats, and then the movie playing. Now, since this is output, we're using the output stream that we created, and the stream operator goes the other way. And we can do the same thing for movie playing. But these also need to have end lines at the end. And there we go. So that should save the data, and that should load the data. Now up in run, the program should start, load the data, and then begin the main menu. So that would be menu login, technically. And once we're done with the main program, it'll start quitting, but it will save the data, and then everything will clear out. So we have that. Let's go ahead and run to make sure that the... Oop, did not like that, because I renamed things. We'll just make sure everything builds and runs after we have the save and load function implemented. So at the moment, the login menu is completely clear. But let's see, we should have auditoriums.txt in here. And here's the program data or the theater data. So that got saved, and now next time it should load it in. But we can't see anything yet because our menu login is not implemented. So let's look at that mockup again. I do not know what that sound was. Okay, whatever. And we'll do the same kind of menu. So here's our customer kiosk. Same kind of style, except this is going to be like Kinejo Theaters or login menu. So quit, you can go to the admin menu or the customer kiosk. And now the dog is coughing a bunch. Hi, Freya. What's up? Okay. So if they choose to go to the admin menu, we're going to go to menu admin. If they choose to go to the customer kiosk, we'll go to customer kiosk. And let's go ahead and build to make sure we can get there. Admin menu not implemented, so we'll go to customer kiosk. View available movies. There we go. Order tickets. And if we change the text file, so let's say this is, I don't know, I can't think of any movies, but go to customer kiosk, view available movies, and then it updates. So now we can check that the data is loaded by just editing that data file. Okay. So now let's do the admin menu. Same sort of interface where we have a menu to select things from the admin menu. We're going to have a log out command, and actually I'm going to change that up in the customer kiosk as well because that's more descriptive. Then in admin, we are going to have the ability to view auditoriums and edit auditoriums. So if we choose number 1, that will go here. Actually, I should have made this auditoriums. We'll just rename that. Okay. And technically this function is pretty much the same as this one, but the difference is if this were a project where we had version 4 or kept working on it, we would probably want special functionality for the admin's view versus the customer's view. But we can pretty much just kind of copy paste that over, and that should be fine. Now, with the edit auditoriums, that is the other one where it has more logic than what we have for the other things. So remember, with purchase tickets, we have a loop while we're not done ordering tickets. We display that. We'll display the movies as well. We'll do that. I'm going to change this to go back because that's, again, more descriptive. We're not quitting the program if they choose that, but we're going back. So instead of saying, which movie do you want to see, we'll say, which movie do you want to edit? Or which auditorium. We can use the same backing out functionality. Movie choice. And let's see. They will select one, and then they'll be able to edit the amount of seats and what is currently showing in there. So they have a movie choice. We'll ask them how many max seats. We'll have them enter that data. So we'll do CN to M auditoriums at movie choice dot max seats. Now, when they enter a max seat amount, we're also going to technically reset the available seats. So available seats is equal to whatever that max is. We'll do what movie is showing in this auditorium. We need to do a cn.ignore, so we could do a get line, and we'll enter in the movie, whatever is showing. Or movie playing. Then we could display something to continue, or actually it'll just continue looping in this menu until they decide to back out. Let's go ahead and test this, and we have an issue. This is supposed to be auditoriums now. So admin menu, okay, that's ugly again. We need to have those end lines. So we'll put that up here. View available movies, purchase tickets, and admin menu. View auditoriums, same data, go back, yes, edit. Which do you want to edit? Number 0, okay. It did not, oh, I hit 0 to go backwards, and it is displaying 0 through 9, so let's adjust this again. Those dogs are quite excited. M auditoriums dot size -1 is the valid value, 0 to that. And let's double check up here as well. We'll just have this be I guess for the user they can see the nice looking version. We just need to make sure that it works properly. So customer kiosk, order 0 to go back. 1 selected the, well, that's not what I want. I want the, okay, my display movies uses 0 through whatever. So if we wanted to have like a customer version and a admin version, that would be a good place to do that. So for instance, let's just do that as like an example. We'll do customer and admin. We'll keep this version as the admin. And for the customer version, technically, maybe they don't need to know the amount of seats right off the bat. So we'll get rid of that, and we'll make this I+1 so it'll look nicer. And then down there, we'll do the customer view, and down here, we'll do the admin view. And this one is also the customer view. And this one is also the admin view. So customer view, it's 1 through 10. And select 1 for that one. For the admin, we have 0 through 9. And we can enter that. And technically, we should tell them what they selected because that'll be just a better user interface. So over here, we'll say editing auditorium number movie choice. It's inline. How many, let's say current seats. Current max seats is this little amount of information. And then we'll ask how many max seats. And we'll do new line. Current movie playing is whatever is currently playing. Okay, so let's make sure that looks okay. Admin, edit, 0. Current max seats is 30, 15. Keys delivery service. Okay, so now that's updated. If I go back, okay, did not like that because this is still expecting a negative or a 0 as a minimum. So admin, edit, 0, 10, Bob. Go back. Did not like that. Why did it not let us do that? I want to go back, and it's not allowing me to. Well, I'm going to go ahead and set a breakpoint so we can double check this. Admin menu, edit auditoriums. I want to go back. Movie choice is indeed -1. And I'm using menu done. And for some reason it says movie choice is equal to true. So this should be menu done. Admin, edit, -1 to go back. Okay. We'll do an edit. We'll go back and we'll exit the program properly. When this gets reloaded, now that is the new movie. So that works. All right. We still need to do the ticket prices. There's several ways we could do this, but up here we have the formulas. Basically, if 0 to 25% of the tickets are sold, we are going to set it to $7.99. If 25 to 50 are sold, then it's that, and so on and so forth. So we can add a function into Auditorium, which would probably be the best place for it because it's specific to a specific auditorium. But it could also go in program. But what I'm going to do is float get ticket price, create a function here. I'm going to now need to create a auditorium CBP file, include auditorium.h. It's going to be auditoriums get ticket price. And so we need to get the amount of movies sold, or the amount of seats sold, and use that to figure out the percent of seats sold, and then use that to figure out the price. So int sold seats is equal to whatever the max seats is minus the available seats. What is that as a percent? Float sold seats ratio is, we'll need to say the sold seats divided by max seats and times 100. Since these are integers, we want to make sure these are at least one is a float when we set this up. So we'll do float. Otherwise, it's not going to keep our remainder. So sold seats divided by max seats times 100. That's the percent. Then we can say if sold seats ratio, if it's less than 25, we're going to return $7.99. Else, if the sold seats ratio is less than 50, we're going to return $8.99. Else, if the sold seats ratio is less than 75, we'll return $9.99. Else, if sold seats ratio is less than 100, actually that should technically be, well, you can't really buy it if it's all completely sold out, but let's go ahead and do that. So we'll return $12.99. And we should have an else case, otherwise the compiler will complain. So in a weird case, if it's not 0 to 100%, we'll return 0. But technically, it should not be outside of that range. So we have get ticket price. Let's go back to program. Get choice, blah, blah, blah. Here we're going to change the price. So m auditoriums I dot get ticket price. So this is the admin view. And here we can do the same. Build. Okay. And I have some more to-dos in here, which in code blocks, I think we can view a little to-do list somewhere. Well, I don't know what it was under, but whatever. Tickets are blah each for this movie, so we'll do m auditoriums movie choice dot get ticket price. Nope, no laundry right now. I just set my alarms that way so I don't just turn them off without thinking about what they're for. Okay, ticket price. We're going to do the ticket price times ticket amount. So again, this is going to be m auditoriums movie choice dot get ticket price. Anywhere else? Okay, let's check this out. So customer kiosk. These are the available movies. None of them are sold out in any means. So let's purchase Arrival. There are currently 25 seats, so let's buy 15. Now let's do Arrival. It's now $19. Let's do 5 seats. Now it's $12. So then it looks like the prices are working. So we'll go back. We can quit. Double check the Auditorium file. Here we have Arrival has 25 max and 5 available. So then that is also getting saved. Okay. As a final pass, let's just look through the acceptance criteria again. We have admin menu. We can set the max seats. We can set the name of the movie. We can charge a ticket price based on the amount of tickets sold. We can display a nice printed table. We have save and load. And we have 10 auditoriums. So that's everything for version 3 of the program. And in here, the usual program layout is different now. We have, this would be the customer kiosk menu. So if this was drawn in a better program, this would be kind of easier to update. But this is the customer area. But we also have a login menu. Yeah. Just do a different color here. Login menu, 0 to quit, 1 for customer kiosk, 2 for admin menu. So it can go to the customer kiosk and vice versa. But we also have admin menu, log out, view movies, edit auditorium, And then those goes both ways, and then this could all be cleaned up a lot more, but as just an example, oops. We have view movies, and we have edit auditoriums over here, and then these arrows go both ways, and so on. Probably make this double-sided. That'll be a little nicer looking down here. So very, very rough diagram. I would have actually used Dia or something else to do this if this was a actual thing I was going to turn in. Program data, this gets updated to match the 10 theaters now. Test cases, those could be updated because now we need to look at admin menu and the ability to update the prices. Okay, this would have to be updated here as well. So we'd have like admin menu can update movie name and just a whole lot of other things as well. Citations, postmortem, screenshots would get updated. So that's just kind of an overview of the documentation. So that was a rundown of just implementing the entire Kinejo project from this semester, from starting with just variables and branching and looping to adding in arrays and basic functions to adding in our classes, structs, and file IO.